Hello there, I'm Lloyd Evans. Welcome to Ramacro. It's time for another voicemail. Today's voicemail is from an anonymous caller. Let's listen to what they have to say.
Hi, Lloyd. I listen to your channel all the time. I really enjoy your content. I listen to a lot because I pick out ideas from all different recordings from different YouTubers. I'd have to say I think your content is much more clear and really helps people like me to overcome their issues, their thoughts. It's retraining of the brain, isn't it? I've been out for 30 years. No, sorry. Let's start that over. I was in the organization for 30 years. I was a single parent, and my kids were all pre-adolescents or adolescents when I started. And now I've been out since March of 2020 when the pandemic started, and it was the documentary, The Witnesses. And I saw that. I was appalled at what I learned, and I'm somebody who I need to find puzzle pieces. I can't have a puzzle with a piece missing. So I do a lot of research and I do a lot of reading, and I have two sons that are in. They both married pioneers, and I want so much to say something so simple to them, to just get them to think. And I can't do it. When I get on the phone with them, I can't do it. And then afterwards, I feel so guilty that I haven't said anything. But I know that their ears would be closed off anyhow, because my younger son, they're both in their 40s. I know he wants this paradise. I wanted the paradise. I wanted to see my parents and my grandparents come back in the new paradise and live forever. I wanted that, and it was not easy to let go of that. But what do I do? I've done the therapy route, and it's hard to find somebody that's just not a therapist who understands things like witnesses in the cult. But the only issue I have is the guilt. I have some friends who are ex-witnesses and have been out for quite some time, and it's grand talking to especially one friend, but I have such a problem with the guilt. I want to talk to my sons, and I just want to let them know, and I can't do it. So hopefully you have some words of wisdom, because I'm sure I'm not the only one out here feeling this guilty. I kind of put it in the back of my head, and then I know that I'm going to talk to them and I want to say something, and I can't do it. So I guess maybe that's what I have to do. I moved clear across the country, and they don't know my life now. They haven't been here. Just my daughter. She's been out for a good long time, over 20 years. Good for her. So anyhow, if you have any words of wisdom, I would greatly appreciate it. And again, thanks for everything that you do. I really enjoy your channel. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Wow, what an amazing message. And also, again, as with so many messages, heartbreaking. It's so frustrating that we have to deal with these situations, isn't it? You'd think you'd just be able, as their mother, to say, oh, by the way, I've stopped believing the Jehovah's Witness religion. I think it's all nonsense, and here's the reason why. You'd think you'd be able to do that. But if you've just stopped attending meetings in March 2020, I guess reading between the lines, you're obviously not disfellowshipped. Reading between the lines, it seems that from their perspective, you've just fallen off the radar. You've moved to a different part of the country, and for all they know, maybe you're still attending meetings in their minds. And it could be that the guilt that you're feeling is that you don't really have any closure on this, because ultimately you don't have any control over what they do with their lives. Once someone has started down the path of being a Jehovah's Witness, especially when they're adults, you say your two sons are married pioneers, so they are thinking adults. they get to decide this stuff for themselves, don't they? As heartbreaking as it may be for you that you played some role in them being in the Jehovah's Witness religion, well, you shouldn't feel any guilt from that point of view, because what were you supposed to do? You were deceived yourself, and you were doing what you thought was right. We can only do our best as human beings with the hand we're dealt, and we're going to make mistakes. It's just a fact of life. We will make mistakes during the course of our lives. And you really shouldn't feel guilty over the fact that they are Jehovah's Witnesses. That's just some guilt that you shouldn't be harboring, quite frankly. And I don't think you are harboring that guilt, because that's not what you're talking about. But just to be absolutely clear on that, you have this situation where you are feeling guilty because your two sons don't know the extent of your feelings, reading between the lines again, and therefore you are feeling powerless to help them. I think that it would be nice if you could just give yourself some closure to at least some degree in just letting your sons know, hey, you know what? I'm not attending meetings anymore. If they don't know that already. If they do know that, I think just them knowing that you're not attending meetings should be enough, quite frankly. And then if they start asking questions, you could say, I have personal reasons why I'm not attending the meetings anymore. And as your mother, I'm willing to discuss them, but only in person, only face to face. I'm not doing it over the phone. I'm not doing it in emails or WhatsApp messages or whatever. If we can get together and sit down and have a conversation, I'm willing to talk. But all you need to know for now is that I'm not attending meetings anymore, and that I love you. And I'll always be here for you. But my faith is a personal thing. You have to let me deal with things the way I deal with them, just as I give you the freedom and dignify you with the autonomy to make your decisions in life. I get to do that with my life. And for the time being, at least, you could say, I'm not going to any meetings, and I will let you know if that changes. I would say that. And again, if they say, well, give us the reasons, Mum, I would say, happy to, as long as it's in person. That's how I would personally deal with it. But everyone's different. Everyone has a different way of dealing with these things. What you don't want to do, if I'm thinking about a worst case scenario in your situation, it would be you writing them like an email or a WhatsApp message, or leaving them a voicemail, something that's recorded in some way so that they have evidence that you're an apostate. That would be the worst case scenario, because then you could end up being disfellowshipped, and then they would be forced to shun you. But they cannot or should not shun you just for not attending the meetings anymore. That's not a shunnable thing, And I think that if you're going to have a conversation about the reasons why you're not attending meetings anymore, I would strongly advise that it's sitting down in person, preferably with both of your sons, so that you can just have a frank conversation. And I would really try to be as kind of diplomatic as possible, and not making them in any way feel like just because you've reached these conclusions, they have to reach the same conclusions themselves. I would say, look, cards on the table here. You need to do with your lives whatever you want to do with your lives, but the truth is important to me. The truth, as in the actual truth, is important to me. And I get so many spins around the sun, lads, you know, and I'm not keen on spending any more of my spins around the sun believing and following things that I have no way of knowing are true, and in fact are more than likely not true. And you can, if you wish to, you know, point out the information that you saw in the witnesses regarding child abuse. But even then, I would tread carefully, and I would say, look, you know, this is an important matter for me. It might not be an important matter for you. I'm not interested in changing your mind per se. I'm here to help you if you want help. I want to be a hearing ear if you want to talk to me. But if you don't want to talk to me about this particular issue, that's totally fine. In fact, what we could do while we're together is agree as a family that we're going to keep religion off the agenda, off the list of things to talk about, if that's going to be easier for us all. But if you do ever want to talk about it, perhaps because you have problems or issues or doubts, I'm here to have a frank conversation. It's just that I don't want you to feel pressured to follow my path, because that's not who I am. That's not what I'm about. That would be my approach. Just don't, whatever you do, put anything in writing or give them any kind of messages recorded that can be passed on in any form to the elders. Make sure that it's just a case of, I'm not attending meetings anymore, so there's that. I'm not willing to talk about it unless we meet in person. If you want us all to get together in person, that would be great. And we can have a meal or something. And, you know, all of my cards will be put on the table. But I'm not doing it over the phone. It's too important. And frankly, my beliefs, my personal beliefs are personal to me. And I'm only willing to talk about them with you, my sons, and as long as we're in person. That would be my way of dealing with it. But it's a complicated situation, and I really do feel for you. And as a parent myself, I can only imagine how heart-wrenching it must be to have children who are indoctrinated. But as far as guilt's concerned, no matter how you deal with this, even if you don't follow any of the advice that I've just given, quite frankly, even if you just carry on as you're doing now, and when you call them, you don't say anything at all about what's going on, I don't think you should lie to them. But let's say that you just don't fill them in on the details of your life. Let's put it that way. It sounds like that's how things are right now. There is nothing to be guilty about there. And if you need me to say that, if you just need to hear someone say that, I'm happy to say it. You have no reason to feel guilty. You have been put in a messed up situation by a toxic, controlling cult. And you are doing the best with the hand you've been dealt that you can. There is nothing for you to feel guilty for. You know, if you need to play this particular part of my voicemail just over and over again until it sinks in, please do that. You are not guilty. You should not feel guilty. And if you feel guilty anyway, despite having played this voicemail 20 times, if you still feel guilty, then I'm sorry, you need to persist with your hunt for a therapist, because this is an issue that's way beyond my pay grade. You know, I'm a commentator and critic of Jehovah's Witnesses, and I talk about the history of Jehovah's Witnesses and their teachings, but I'm not a mental health expert by any stretch of the imagination. And if you are struggling with feelings of guilt so that the feelings of guilt are overwhelming you and making your life miserable, that's where mental health professionals will be needed. And I get that it's difficult to find mental health professionals that don't have a clue about cults. I've spoken with them myself. I've been through a few by this point, and they have varying degrees of knowledge, let's put it that way, when it comes to cults and how cults work. So I understand that it's been a frustrating search, but if I can humbly recommend that you persist with your search for a mental health professional, I think that you might find that beneficial, because you shouldn't be feeling guilty. We should feel guilty about things that we have control over and about decisions that we make and things that we do where we could do the right thing, but we do the wrong thing and it hurts people. That's where we should feel guilty. But when it comes to other people and the decisions they make, and especially when we're talking about organizations that export misery in people's lives and seek to control people's lives, and there's nothing we can do to stop them, individually at least, there's no reason for guilt. You shouldn't be feeling guilty. And again, if nothing else, if you just need to hear that in this message, then I'm happy to say it as many times as is needed. But hopefully I've said it enough for it to sink in, or for at least you to contemplate that you have no reason to feel guilty. So I hope this message has been useful. Just remember, it's your life, not mine. I can't tell you what to do. You need to figure this stuff out for yourself. But sometimes it's helpful to just run things by someone and get their take on things. And if nothing else, it gives you another perspective. So hopefully I've given you another perspective. You can do with it as you wish. But I do wish you all the best in navigating this complicated situation. And I really hope you're able to get some closure and realize that you are not to blame, that you shouldn't be guilty or feel guilty over this situation. Anyway, that's all I have to say on this particular subject or voicemail. If you would like to leave a voicemail, the thing to do is go to speakpipe.com/Cedars, remembering to indicate clearly if you don't want me to broadcast your message on this channel. But that's all we have time for. Thank you so much for watching.